Hey, welcome back to the Cam Rogers Show. By the way, let me be of the first to wish you all a very happy Halloween. I mean, that's coming up on Tuesday, right? And by the way, also, the NFL trade deadline is coming down on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. So with that, I have 3 trades that will go down in the NFL. And I'm previewing them for you right now. So I'm essentially projecting what's going to happen. You don't even need to pay attention on Tuesday because I'm already going to tell you what's going to go down. So trade number 1. Jeremy Hill, running back for the Cincinnati Bengals, going to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for a 5th-round pick. What is the reasoning behind this? Well, first of all, Jeremy Maclin is on his rookie contract right now, looks to expire after this season. The Cincinnati Bengals are ready to move on and really use Joe Mixon as the guy. If they are a smart organization, and many times they prove that they're not, they will be playing Joe Mixon as much as possible. Because Joe Mixon slows down that pass rush with the quick passes and using him out in space and screens like that. Jeremy Hill isn't that kind of running back. He's a bruiser. He's a one-cut guy. He's an A-gap guy. And that's something the Seattle Seahawks need. So the Cincinnati Bengals get a nice little 5th-round pick. Maybe they can attack that tackle position, which needs a lot of help right now. And for Seattle, it's been a running back wasteland right now in the last couple of years, really. Rawls can't stay healthy. He fumbles the football. Eddie Lacy should play right guard. C.J. Prosise has been struggling with an ankle injury of his own. So with that, bring in Jeremy Hill. Give Hill a new scene, if you will. Change of scenery is always good for players who seem to be struggling and get a little stale on a team. So with Mixon supplanting Hill, I think that would be very beneficial for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to allow them to concentrate on Joe Mixon and the fantastic talent that he can provide. And so that is a good thing for Cincinnati. For Seattle, they actually have a running back that can probably handle 20 to 25 carries. Rawls clearly can't. Eddie Lacy probably can, but he's going to average 1.7 yards per carry. And C.J. Prosise, he has just shown some good flashes. There's no doubt about it. And by the way, I want you guys throwing in your comments about these trades because I feel like they could bring out the best in the audience here today. So the situation for Seattle is bleak, and if you bring in Jeremy Hill, I think you'll have a refresh motivation to perform well. And with the Seahawks 18th in rushing, I think Hill can only make things better. Yes, Seattle's offensive line is a mess too. And Russell Wilson is throwing on the run like 90% of the time, it seems. But if Jeremy Hill can go to Seattle and slow down the pass rushes of opposing defenses and perhaps give Russell Wilson time on play action, that will make all the difference for the Seahawks in the NFC West. It'll make all the difference for the Seahawks in the NFC in general, and it may just make a difference for them to get to the Super Bowl this year. So Jeremy Hill hasn't been used much in Cincinnati, and of course you still have Gio Bernard out there in Ohio. So why not roll with Gio and Mixon for now and really see what you have out of Mixon, give him 20, 25 carries. And Seattle can now give Jeremy Hill 20 to 25 carries a game and see what they have out of him. It's more about saving Russell Wilson, actually, because if you have a good run game, you're going to slow down the pass rush because those defensive rotations will be more of the big guys, less of the speed rushers because you got to stop the run. You're not going to get a big pass rush on your play action. It's all a chain of reaction type of effect here. So Jeremy Hill to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for a 5th-round pick going to the Cincinnati Bengals. That's trade number 1 that will happen before this deadline. Trade number 2 that will go down. Martavis Bryant to the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's no secret that Martavis is fed up with the offensive scheme in Pittsburgh, fed up with the team, it seems, fed up with Juju Smith-Schuster calling him out on Instagram and then having to go delete the comment and then, clear up his tracks, if you will. And the poor guy wasn't involved in that hide-and-seek celebration last week. Clearly, he's not part of this locker room. Martavis Bryant to the Cowboys in exchange for a 7th-round pick. I don't think Bryant has any more value than a 7th-round pick. I'll be honest with you. There was a lot of promise for this guy going into this season, especially in fantasy football circles, especially out of Pittsburgh, where people thought that Bryant could be that legit number 2 opposite of Antonio Brown. It seems as though Juju Smith-Schuster, heck, Darius Heyward-Bey is catching the ball better than Martavis Bryant at this point. So clearly the Steelers don't need him. And you, on top of that, pile on the fact that Mike Tomlin benched Martavis for this coming Sunday Night Football game between the Steelers and the Lions. And Martavis Bryant actually said a quote to ESPN's Josina Anderson. Quote, "If things don't get better, then I got to go." And for the Dallas Cowboys, on that side of things, wide receivers outside of Dez Bryant have been pretty bad. Underwhelming, I should say. Cole Beasley has not been very good. Terrence Williams has not been very good. Bryce Butler has shown flashes, but not all that great either. They're all underperforming according to Pro Football Focus. They have below average grades. Dez Bryant isn't even an elite wide receiver right now according to Pro Football Focus. So if the Cowboys bring in Martavis Bryant, he is that legit number 2 guy opposite of Dez Bryant. Little Bryant duo. So you have Dez Bryant with his fantastic route running and his great catch radius. Martavis Bryant with a new scene. Remember the same logic with Jeremy Hill. Fresh scenery can really bring out the best in people. And Martavis Bryant is a fantastic wide receiver. People don't realize that. So you have Bryant on the deep post routes, on the fly routes. He can do some curls too. And then you see more holes in the linebacker and that second kind of layer of the defense. That linebacker area with Jason Witten getting it done at the tight end position, had some great catches last week and more holes for him. Obviously big for Dak Prescott and that offense. So Martavis Bryant to the Dallas Cowboys, I think, could very well be the difference for Dallas to win the NFC East. Because look, I mean, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are playing good football right now. That's great, that's good. But we have to remember they were playing good football last year too. And we brought this up on many of our programs here at Chat Sports. That they have played well before, especially last year, the Eagles have, and then they just kind of fall off. Will that happen again? It's very possible. And for the Dallas Cowboys, I think they see an opportunity. They see an opportunity this Sunday to beat the Washington Redskins with a beaten and battered offensive line, a star corner that is still ailing in Josh Norman, but probably will play, and a situation where they can go out and get a wide receiver that is pretty darn good, who doesn't want to be where he wants to be right now, and you have the prospect of perhaps winning the NFC East because of it. Dallas Cowboys defense looked a lot better last week with Sean Lee. That offense can look a lot better too if they bring in Martavis Bryant. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned Zeke Elliott and the fact that he can run the football effectively. And think about the play action that Dak can do, getting that football down to Dez Bryant and to Martavis Bryant too. It's a pretty deadly combination. So with the Steelers benching Martavis this week, it's quite clear they don't want him on the team. Big Ben did say that they want to get the football to him more. Maybe that's just quarterback speak. Who knows? But I think the Steelers are in a good spot with Juju Smith-Schuster and McDonald there at the tight end position, and you got Le'Veon Bell. They're fine. Martavis Bryant wants a change. Dallas Cowboys makes a lot of sense. Final point on this, Jerry Jones tends to have a high tolerance for character issues, and trust me, calling out a teammate on Instagram would not be one of the worst infractions a Dallas Cowboy would make. So, with that, Martavis Bryant going to AT&T Stadium, going to Jerry World, going to Dallas, makes a lot of sense in my eyes. The number one trade that will happen before Tuesday, 4 o'clock Eastern time, Eli Manning to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's time, guys. Giants fans out there that are watching, time for Giants fans and the Giants organization to look to the future, to look at what they have out of Davis Webb, quarterback from California. Tom Downey, our draft insider, says he doesn't really like him, but perhaps you got to see what you can get out of that quarterback. That's point number one. Point number two, the Manning and Tom Coughlin connection. So, of course, Tom Coughlin is the executive vice president of football operations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Eli Manning still very close with Tom Coughlin. It makes a lot of sense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, the Jaguars would be giving up a second and third round pick, respectively, to the New York Football Giants. Perhaps an opportunity for the Giants to look at a quarterback in that second round. Whoever may be available, maybe a Lamar Jackson, we'll see. But also an opportunity for the Giants to really zone in on that offensive line, especially at left tackle. So some good news for the Giants getting those second and third round picks. Good news for the Jaguars because they seem to be a quarterback away from being a legit deep AFC contender. And I'm talking about this could be the difference from the Jaguars getting a wild card and losing in the first round to going to Foxborough in the AFC Championship game, Eli Manning versus Brady. That is what headlines are made of, folks. And I think that Eli Manning, even though he has said that he doesn't want to play for the New York Giants, doesn't want to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars, part of him may want to look ahead to the future too and realize that, okay, we're rebuilding now. We're not winning a Super Bowl for some time. Maybe it's time for me to look at a team with a great front seven, Jacksonville, a great running back, Jacksonville, a great secondary, in fact, maybe the best in the league, Jacksonville, and an adequate offensive line, Jacksonville. So with that, here's what Eli Manning said recently. Quote, "Why people think I would leave or want to leave or the Giants want to trade me, I don't get caught up in the rumors. I don't think about them. I got one job, and that's playing quarterback for the New York Giants." That is the most cookie-cutter, straight out of the player textbook phrase you could ever hear. Because all that tells me is Eli Manning is just going by the playbook of being a good leader and saying that he doesn't want to leave. But there is always something in the bottom of your stomach, the pit of your stomach, if you will, where maybe, it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to go to Jacksonville. As we recap the trades that will happen in the NFL. Jeremy Hill to the Seattle Seahawks for a 5th-round pick. Martavis Bryant to the Dallas Cowboys for a 7th-round pick. Eli Manning in a blockbuster deal going to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 2nd-rounder and a 3rd-rounder. As I continue this discussion with Jacksonville, because it's clear Doug Marrone does not want anything to do with Blake Bortles. Do you recall when he said prior to this season that they don't want to throw the football very much? In fact, they want to prevent it as much as possible and run the football with Leonard Fournette, Chris Ivory, TJ Yeldon in that offensive line. What does that tell me? That tells me there's no confidence in Blake Bortles. And Doug Marrone, part of a new regime here, this isn't the Gus Bradley regime, Doug Marrone could very well say something to management, say something to Tom Coughlin, be like, hey, let's look at Eli Manning. Let's get him over here to Jacksonville and have him play for this team and take us to the AFC Championship game. Because if Eli Manning goes to Jacksonville, the Jaguars will go to the AFC Championship game. They will. You got Marquise Lee there on the outside, Allen Hurns. These guys aren't studs, but they're certainly better than the combination of Roger Lewis and Sterling Shepard. And one final point about Eli Manning. There is a no-trade clause in his contract. What does that mean? Essentially, Eli Manning has to waive that clause to be traded. So it really is all on Eli Manning at this point. And yes, he has said that he wants to play for the Giants. But let's just say management comes up to Eli and says, hey, there's an opportunity to go play for Jacksonville. We're ready to move on to a Davis Webb. Heck, maybe a Geno Smith, ? I don't know. Why don't you go play for Jacksonville, Eli? And maybe he will waive that clause and go ahead, play for Tom Coughlin. The Giants can give a look at Webb, maybe look ahead to Sam Darnold or Mason Rudolph in the draft. And things would be absolutely insane because I guarantee it, folks, we will have an Eli Manning, Tom Brady AFC Championship game, and it will be lit, as the kids say. So that is trade number 3 that will go down before the deadline. Reminder, 4 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday, Halloween, that's when the deadline occurs. So stay tuned. Those are the recap names there. Jeremy Hill, Martavis Bryant, and Eli Manning. All make sense to me. All not that crazy to fathom. There you have it. That's what's happening in the NFL before Tuesday afternoon. This is the Cam Rogers Show.